Welcome to the first episode of the PDF at Work podcast presented by Foxit. Let me introduce myself. My name is Carsten Heiermann. I'm married. I was born in 1968, father of two kids living in Germany. And I'm your host of the PDF at Work podcast. My job is I'm the chief evangelist at Foxit. Today's topic is PDF and standards, but let me give you an outlook on what will be covered in this podcast. So we will have several case studies and user stories of PDF implementations. We'll have horizontal and also industry-specific informations with regards to PDF. We'll keep you posted about standards development. We give you the status today, but we'll keep you up to date on the progress of PDF standardization. The PDF future, I have some PDF visionaries invited for later episodes, and we'll talk about related to and special topics of PDF, including signatures later this year, forms, accessibility, redaction, and I guess redaction is necessary after the EU, the European Union, failed again to properly redact the vaccine purchase contract 2 weeks ago, as you might have seen on the news. I'm always trying to have an expert as a guest here in this podcast, representative from the PDF user community, a developer or other expert. And as today's episode or topic is about PDF and standards, here's my first expert. Let me introduce Roman Toda to you. Welcome, Roman.
Hello, Carsten. Thank you for inviting me. And let me first introduce myself a little bit. So my name is Roman Toda. I'm first and foremost a software engineer, developer. I've been working with PDF since 1997. At the time, it was PDF 1.2 or 1.3, I guess. And with my team over the last, 20 and something years, we were working on various PDF libraries, products, services, helping companies, customers, end users, and vendors to do PDF right, actually. And later, I also started to actively participate in PDF development process or development of the PDF standard process, to be more precise, through the PDF Association and through the ISO processes as well. And the areas that are most interesting for me are the PDF reuse, future versions of PDF and how PDF may evolve, areas of accessibility, PDF encryption, and all the related technologies that we are exploring at the PDF Association and at the level. And again, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for being with us, Roman. Looks like you know a lot about PDF, and PDF reuse is a keyword we might want to talk about again a little later when we come a little bit further in our program here. That might be foreign to some of our audience, but again, we talk about PDF and standards today. And again, thanks for joining. And I want to begin this podcast with this episode with some fundamental information. Some basic knowledge to share about PDF, and we'll definitely look at the user level more in later episodes of this PDF at Work podcast. But let us together, Roman and I, first try and clarify the PDF universe a little bit, because Roman, that got more and more, branched during the last 10 to 15 years, don't you think?
Well, yes, of course. I mean, when you realize the history of PDF, the PDF was born in 1993, and it's curious that's actually the same year as HTML was born. And if you put it into context, that was around the time when first laser printers or color printers were born as well. So we needed to address the John Warnock's vision, which he laid down back in 90s. To make actually documents digital. So we started to develop PDF in a way that it captures whatever is on a paper. And that changed. The landscape changed. Everything has changed. And now, or back then, we needed, there was the time of dial-up internet, right? So nobody actually expected to send via emails hundreds of megabytes of data. Today, it's all different. Our documents don't look the same. We don't have documents as we saw them in 80s. Our documents right now are, contain 3D data, are interactive, and are everywhere basically. So definitely the landscape has changed. The document format has evolved, and we see now PDF as a standard, screaming from us from everywhere.
Yeah, correct. Landscape evolved. The use cases for PDF broadened up widely. You gave some examples that some people might find extreme, talking about 3D in PDF and so on. We'll get to that a little later and sort it out. And I guess these flavors of PDF, some of them really special use cases, some of them for broader use cases are once necessary, but on the second view, also a little bit intimidating or at least confusing for people who would just like to use PDF. And maybe that's our mission today, and give the audience here a little bit of an idea what they need to care about, and probably also what is not for them, so that they can ignore kind of like the noise. And yeah, that would be a good idea. So let's try and do that when we go through the standards piece by piece a little later. But before we actually start talking about these standards and the standards numbers and so on, let's also try to clear up some long-lasting myth or mystery. And that is the question about who owns PDF, because again, people know PDF is related to Adobe, but we're talking about PDF standards. So what is it, Roman? Tell us.
Short answer would be ISO. International Organization for Standardization. It's, as I said, international organization. It's formed from national standardization organizations, so basically countries. ISO publishes the standard, so that's basically in a nutshell it, but it's more complicated, of course, and more precise answer is that it's owned by community. It is open standard, and everyone can contribute, even through the ISO technical working groups, or through the other members of ISO, through countries. So you may be the member of technical working group in your country, in Germany, for me in Slovakia, and you may participate. You may also be as a member of or participant in a liaison members, and PDF Association is one of the most important members or liaison members of ISO. And at PDF Association, we prepare material, we prepare documents, we discuss things, and these things we provide to ISO, whether or not ISO accepts it. And by ISO, I mean countries. So there is a bureaucratic process which involves, I guess, 170 countries all around the globe. And everybody has to be involved, or could be involved if they're willing to. So definitely not Adobe. It's driven by community. It's driven by people. Of course, we see Adobe's people at the table. They're very active. We see people from Foxit as well at the table, bringing the ideas. And interesting thing is, it doesn't really matter if you are from a small company like myself or from a billion-dollar company. At the table, whoever brings a good idea, whoever is willing to participate is very welcome. And yeah, it truly and honestly is a community effort. So, and if we look back into the history, Adobe from the very beginning published the PDF specification as an open document, even though they own it. By owning, I mean they updated it, but it has always been an open document, and everybody could start writing their own piece of PDF processor or creator or whatever without the need of paying any royalties to anyone. It changed back in 2007 when Adobe officially gave the rights to the document to ISO and to the, back at that time, it was a PDF A competence center, which then turned out to be PDF Association. So yeah, the question you asked, I hear quite a lot, and people still think that some big company is willing to take money out of their pockets because they would use PDF. That's not the case. Vendors, implementers, users are invited to participate in development of the PDF as a standard and are free to do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, so it's a community-driven, not a single vendor thing. It's public and democratic, as you said. And I think it's also interesting to know that we're approaching a point in time where ISO is almost as long than the entity that drives PDF as Adobe has been before. So PDF 1.0 has been June 93, and ISO published the first PDF 1.7 under their umbrella and under their procedures and under the public control in July 2008. Today it's 2021, so it's almost getting there that we have it as long in ISO as it has been with Adobe as an open standard. So it is an ISO standard. Why should users care about that? Why is that important?
Yes, well, it's a very good question, and I do think that it's a very big difference between being an open document owned by Adobe, as you said, in 2006 or 7, and if it's an open standard under the umbrella of ISO. First, you have to realize, or people have to understand, that ISO documents, ISO standards are in many ways legally binding, I would say. So you can, from a local law, from legal documents, you can rely on standards. ISO covers a bunch of different standards from healthcare, from security, and basically everything. And that means if PDF is an open standard under the ISO, it also means that organization, public sector can rely and can be sure that if something is PDF, then it is as good as any vaccine that they would get, probably.
Yeah, I guess that is the point. The information in today's society is the gold, right? The gold nugget, and you need to have a reliable container to store your gold, right? And therefore, that container, in this case, obviously, I'm talking about information. It's in documents, it's in PDF as a container that can't be private or in a vendor's hand. And I guess it was a very smart move for the overall development and the overall, let's say, acceptance of the format PDF to put it in the public's hand, not only for governments, but also for companies. So I agree, it's important, and it's something where people can, where companies and users can trust and rely on, and make sure and be rest assured that the community will do the right things for them to keep their information gold pieces safe and sound, right?
Exactly.
Okay, we touched on ISO and we touched on PDF Association. So who is doing what? So real quick, I mean, it's a complex organization, but real quick, the ISO, how is it organized over there? I mean, you're part of that and contribute to that work a lot. What's your role there? You're a work group chair or co-chair somewhere. Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So ISO is organized in technical committees, and then each technical committee is that does have their own subcommittees. when we're talking about PDF, we are basically talking about two different technical committees. One is TC 171 and 130, and then subcommittees for 171, it is subcommittee 2. And then it's divided into, or the work is divided into working groups. We have several working groups there, and every working group works on something different. But in general, like for example, working group number 8 or number 9, they're working on PDF UA or PDF as a standard. So that's basically in a nutshell. And we discuss documents and we discuss material that is brought to ISO table, and we prepare the document for a balloting. That's the formal process every document has to go through. The balloting is a long-term process. Every country, every member of ISO does have a right to read through the document and say what they think, whether or not they wish to, have this standard as a part of their national standardization process. Mm-hmm. And when we're talking about countries, we really are talking about like USA, China, Australia, whoever, Italy, Germany, Slovakia, no matter how big the country is, they have their own vote. And that's why the process of ratification, such a standard, is a long-term process. So we have to be sure at the ISO table we prepare documents that are really good. And that's also why it takes some time. PDF Association, on the other hand, it's more agile. It's a liaison member of the ISO. So PDF Association prepares the documents in a more agile manner. Sometimes we at the PDF Association decide not to bring something to ISO and just publish it as a
sorry to interrupt. Let me talk about the PDF Association. Not everybody knows that, right? We're both working there for a long time, but who is PDF Association? I guess they themselves say they have 150 or more than 150 PDF companies as members there, numerous experts from the industry, and they have members, which is, again, PDF experts, PDF companies, and so on from over 35 countries. Their website is, by the way, pdfa.org. And with Adobe and Foxit, the two largest PDF companies are members for sure. But again, there's a whole long list of companies dealing with PDF solutions, PDF software, and they're all members there. And now you say that is the association where, as a nonprofit organization, nevertheless, but not as formally organized as the ISO, where things are sometimes prepared, right, before being proposed to ISO. Okay.
So when it comes to myself or my role, I usually have to wear two different hats. One is my PDF Association head, and one is my ISO head, where I decide what is good for the community and what is good for the standardization process. So yeah, PDF Association is organized in working group as well. And basically we are, don't want to say mimicking the way the ISO works, but we have similar working groups preparing stuff for the ISO working groups, as well as doing other things. Sometimes we form ad hoc groups, study groups, and in a like small amount of people sitting in one room can brainstorm ideas and come up with something what may evolve into something bigger, but even what we decided to kill as a bad idea, perhaps. So yeah, as I said, we're very agile. I'm glad you mentioned that PDF Association actually covers the whole industry. And we have really big vendors to small vendors. But what is interesting, even interesting organizations are part of the PDF Association, organizations that understand the need of being involved and having access to the latest information, and also being able to drive the development. And by organization, I mean like government agencies, United Library of Congress, United States Government Publishing Office, National Archives, National Archive in US, and others. Like recently, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory joined us, which is the research facility for NASA. And so on. So it's not just the vendors that are making money on their products and services. It really is very broad bunch of very smart people.
You could call it the PDF community, right?
Yes.
Around there, yes. I'm working on the PDF Association's board of directors for a very long time, and also my company those days, LoRaTech, still was the founding member. So is Foxit now. I think it's a very important piece of the puzzle when it comes to developing and adjusting PDF to what's going on out there in the market and what the requirements are. Okay, so then let's talk about the PDF standards, multiple, not a single PDF standard, but lots of them, and try to sort that out a little bit, which is our main topic and task today. And I guess for us, it would be the best to start with quote unquote, the PDF, which used to be the only PDF in those days, and which is like the foundation where all the special PDFs, as I call it for today, branch off from in a way, which is what is nowadays called PDF 2.0 or ISO 32000.
Yes.
Tell us a little about it. What is it? Where did it come from?
Yeah, well, we mentioned back in the 90s, Adobe started to write a specification of this file format. And they, the evolution of PDF as a format was at that time pretty rapid. Every other year, Adobe published some new version 1, version 1.1, 1.2, and so on and so on. In 2007, Adobe gave PDF Associate or community or ISO the right to use this document. And at that time, it was a PDF 1.7. When we switched into the ISO, we get an ISO number. So PDF became ISO 32000. And from there, we have nothing like 1.8, 1.9, although we call it internally 2.0. In 2008, we started developing ISO 32000 based on 1.7. And it took us, well, we copied basically that, right? We copied the 1.7 into ISO 32000. And from that point, it took us almost 8 years to develop PDF 2.0 or to develop something which is called now ISO 32000-2. And it was published in 2017. And it was a major rework because, you know, when you're doing something for your own purpose, as Adobe did, you don't follow certain standards. It's hard to rely on that from a regulation perspective. You know, the wording has to be precise. Everything has to follow certain rules. So that took some time, and also it took some time to do the big evolutionary step we did from ISO 30000 to ISO 30000-2 or 1.7 to 2.0. We resolved over 5,000 comments. A lot of sections were rewritten completely. We laid foundations for a lot of new, not even back then defined things like 3D annotations, rich media, projections, associated files, unencrypted wrapper, new tags, and so on and so on. So there's a big step forward. We now also updated in December 2020. We released new versions of ISO 30000-2, which is an update. So that's our core and the most important document. That's the PDF as we know it. Everything is in there. It's a long document. It does have like 1,000 pages, I guess. So it's not easy to read. It's definitely not a bedtime reading.
For some, it might be, right?
Yes, yeah, well, you can easily fall asleep while reading it. That's for sure. So that's our golden document. That's what we see as a framework for other SAP standards. So from there, we are merging our work into different verticals, different needs. Not everybody needs everything. And on the other side, some people need very special, or some industries needs very special features. And if you look at who at the moment creates documents, very different people: public sector, healthcare, legal. Financial documents look completely different to engineering documents, where you have to have your 3D models and whatever. I mean, there is so many opportunities, and so many people are using PDF as a container for their own presentation layer and their own data. You mentioned accessibility. That's one of the use cases where we can't really say that every document can be accessible. Like 3D model is hard to be accessible. Print production requires completely different set of features than something like a 3D, right?
Yeah, I understand. So what you're doing is you're kind of defining the case for the need of special PDFs when they are not when there's features, when there's ideas or concepts not necessarily need to be covered by the main track, as I would call it, which is PDF 2.0 these days, or ISO 32000, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So ISO 32000 is the foundation for everything we do, I understand. And you're saying that the document itself, which is defining the PDF, there should not be any misconceptions in there, any errors, or any not fully defined things, so that everything is nice and interoperable between different vendors' products and everything on. And you're saying the quality got much better throughout the course of the last some years by so many people from the community contributing to it. Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So I think we have a very good foundation here. And tell us a little bit on, I mean, we will have potentially an update in May or June timeframe talking about the next big ISO meetings and what came as updates from the community. But tell us a little bit about what is worked on right now, because some people might not think that, or might think that PDF is out there in the market for so long. It's mature, it has everything in there. So is it just something so that the engineers don't get bored and you put more and more like exotic things in it, or what is currently worked on?
Yeah, I hear this question quite a lot from friends who are not in an industry. When I say I'm working on PDF, why? Isn't it done?
Yeah.
So yeah, it is done, but still it isn't. Like it's not just, you know, the documents or the landscape evolved a lot, technology evolved, everything is evolving around us, so we can't really stay on the same place with this old document format as well. We have to bring new things into documents, not because we wanted to, because we are bored, but because people actually ask for it. So sometimes you also have to deprecate something which is not used, or which is not necessary, or creates a unnecessary burden in a specific environment. Like for example, all the colors, definitions, and so on. You don't care that much about colors when you're talking about accessibility, right? But for press and printing industry, that's a completely different story. You have to be very precise when defining a color of some object on a page. Some companies even have their own special color for their branding, patented colors, right? So you have to have the ability to carry on this information about this specific color in a document. While accessibility, disabled people don't really care about the color. So yeah, you asked the question, what are we working on? We are definitely trying to, address needs of industries, not just our industry, but from outside. People are approaching us with their own ideas. That's how new 3D models came into PDF. That's how geo spatial informations became part of the PDF. So we are definitely looking at these things. We are also looking at things that are important because we don't want to be left behind. Like, for example, encryption. We don't want to have PDF unsecure. And if you look back in 90s, something what looked secure in 90s definitely isn't secure right now. So that's a natural evolution you have to do. And also what is like important thing, you have to address the needs of these specific industries without creating too much of a burden on them. When we invent something or introduce something in a main document, we don't want them to be afraid of adopting new format, because they don't really need that. And that's why the substandards are here for.
Okay. So currently things worked on, you mentioned encryption. So everybody will understand that encryption is something with the increase of computational power gets weak again, and you need a new algorithm or something like that over time. And PDF is secure today. I think everybody can rely on that, right? Also from an encryption standpoint. But the things we're working on, and encryption is, for instance, something that you yourself and Foxit together are working on right now to do some reference implementation there for the next proposed level of encryption, so that that PDF stays safe in the future. Right? So reliable format, digital signatures, electronic signatures is something else that's currently worked on, because this is also an evolving field, and it's very closely related to PDF. Signing a document when it's a PDF document is very closely related, and there's a great level of integration between what is called signatures and timestamps and stuff like that, as well as PDF on the other hand, and got to keep up to date with what's going on out there, right?
Yeah, there are also other things, the evolution of the landscape is, we have to notice it and we have to react on it. PDF is for, a fixed layout format, so it's not adjustable to small devices, to, watch and mobiles and tablets. So that is also something what the association is working on. We want to address these needs. PDF is doesn't have a good reputation when it comes to accessibility. EPUB is used a little more because people think that PDF can't be accessible. So that's area that people at the association are looking at. And new ideas. PDF as a format isn't or is seen as a, or could be, potential threat when it comes to viruses. So we are trying to make it even more secure. PDF, as you definitely know, PDF can contain JavaScript when it comes to form processing, and we want to get rid of it. There are ideas around how to make sure that the PDF is even more secure, and people see it as a reliable format for their use cases. So interoperability, reliability, and things like that. That's our main priorities.
Yeah, and I guess that's great. Another great concept about PDF that I always liked is that while it is changing and adjusting and adopting what's required from the market out there, adjusting to new environments and situations, it's always, you never have to convert your old files to a new format or a new version, let's say, because it's always evolving, has this backwards compatibility thing going on, which is, I guess, one of the main advantages of PDF. If you have a repository of PDFs, that's a good thing, right? You don't
Exactly.
need to keep up in changing and reformatting, but you can have artifacts in your, let's say, document archive that are sealed with a timestamp stored in PDF, and that's it, and that's a good thing, and that's a reliable thing, and that is here to last. But we'll talk about archiving and one of these special PDFs in a little later here. So as I said, when we talk about a standard or one of these substandards, now we talked about the main standard, PDF 2.0 or ISO 32000, however you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
What's the user perspective? I guess everybody will sort of use this, but maybe doesn't have to care about that. It's just safe as PDF, or how would you put that in perspective?
Well, as you said, people have this feeling that whatever they have in their archive in a form of PDF, it's a good one and it will last forever. And I guess that's a fair point. I've always tried to convince vendors and users to use the lowest PDF version possible. So whatever you use, if you don't need to use PDF 2.0 features, don't use it. Just stay where you are. You don't have to. On the other hand, PDF 2.0 brings so many good things and new things that I believe that adoption will only grow. Of course, the idea of big words compatibility has always been here, and people are relying with the format they used before if they don't need anything new. And while they will use these new features, they will definitely need PDF 2.0 and they will use it. So that's the way how the PDF evolution goes and will always go. So you have this big word compatibility. You don't have to do anything if you're okay where you are, if you're not changing anything on your end. But the but comes, and the environment and the landscape actually force you to use new things. New regulations comes out when it comes to digital signatures, for example. In Europe, you know how hard we are on in Europe on related technologies and security and certificates and so on.
Yeah, I agree. So again, strictly from a user perspective, I think a user and using PDF more or less as a safe as PDF, export to PDF, or any other kind of software does not necessarily need to know whether it's PDF 1.6 or 2.0 or something like that, right? Would you agree? Yes. So the software takes care, and as you said, it's more or less for the developers or the software vendors to understand what your message, which is, if you as a software company do not use PDF 2.0 features, but only up to 1.7 or something like that, then save it as 1.7 or 1.6 or one lower version. But if you use new features, then you have to save it as 2.0 or later, right? The end user does the sole decision, say, we use PDF in our company, and that's potentially all they need to know and need to understand. I guess everything else is a background information. The editors, the converters will pick the version or the standards part that they need to store the document they create with the features as it uses, and that's it, right? So from a user perspective, we talked along about this, and I guess it's all very interesting, but it is much easier for the user than for us as a vendor, I guess, right?
Absolutely. It's our, Foxit is a good example. It's your responsibility for your users to give them what they need and to give them the things in the right way. So, as you said, people will just save the PDF as they were doing for years now. They wouldn't see any difference, but the PDF would be a lot better.
Correct. Okay, great. Anything to add for, let's say, the main track, the main PDF from your perspective?
Well, there will be a lot of things, but I think we covered almost everything from the higher perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more than 1,000 pages. So,
Yes.
of course, but it's all about the details. And we just stated that the end user does not really necessarily has to concern themselves with the details there.
Mhm.
The vendors and the ISVs, the software vendors will take care.